Going on YouTube, Cloverbell's here back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're hopping back into Pokemon Showdown, back into the team builder because we have another tier 3 request to the channel, and that is involving this idea of using Cresselia Ursaluna, which is relatively standard, but putting it in a Sun archetype with Torkoal, right? So this is something that's like technically not new, but this is something that the viewer wanted to try because they didn't want simply like Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, Armarouge, and then Ursaluna in the back with something like Amoonguss or Iron Hands, right? They wanted something a little bit different as opposed to using something that was a little bit more standard and common like that. So they asked, okay, what about like Cresselia, Ursaluna, and Torkoal? And I said, okay, we can build around that because that kind of archetype still works relatively well because, you know, you have Torkoal, great Trick Room Sweeper under Eruption, you know, because you can get the sun out and then, you know, you just have stronger eruption plays, right? And then at the same time, it's also a pretty good support Pokemon in a way for Ursaluna because, you know, if you consider like Ursaluna's weaknesses, weak to Urshifu Surging Strikes, weak to Rillaboom, grass type, of course, and then you just bring in Torkoal and you do so much more into both of those, right? Not necessarily the damage, but the sun makes the damage from Urshifu be a lot less, right? Because it does a water type attack in the sun just doesn't do a whole lot of damage, right? So now it's all about like, okay, you've got the archetype, right? So now it's just all about making it stronger and supporting it because these are the 3 Pokemon that you're going to build around. Okay, now it's just all about how do I make this mode stronger so this way I have a little bit more flexible options depending on the matchup, right? So you have your Trick Room Sweeper, of course, with Cresselia, but how do you guarantee the Trick Room more than what you have right now? Because easily Pokemon can just double into the Cresselia slot, it dies, and then now these two, they don't have the speed control to do the job that they need to do, right? So usually what you want is maybe a Fake Out Mon, right? So something like Iron Hands makes a lot of sense on these Cresselia Ursaluna teams, right? Because you can fake out one slot or force it to protect. Either way, same thing, one slot is not doing damage, and then have the Cresselia, you know, be able to have enough bulk, of course, to be able to survive that last slot that can attack, right? Now, of course, there are Terra Ghost options that can dodge the potential fake out, but, you know, that's all about, like, using your judgment and, you know, outplaying them. If you can see in the open team sheets that they have Terra Ghost with the lead, then maybe you might opt to take a different route as opposed to just trying to set up Trick Room in that essence, right? But either way, you still want that fake out option. And then Iron Hands is also technically a pretty good Trick Room Mon because, you know, you have a great attack stat with 140. And then from here, you just have to make sure you don't speed tie your own Ursaluna, right? So maybe make one point faster than the other, obviously. So you have a Fake Out Mon, right, to help you set up Trick Room. It's another physical sweeper. Now, we still need a little bit more special attacking support here. So something like Flutter Mane also does relatively well here. Okay, and the whole idea with Flutter Mane is now that you have Torkoal, you can enable the photosynthesis, you know, with the drought, right? And then it just begs the question like, okay, I'm getting damage here, or I'm getting the sun buff. Like I don't have to run Booster Energy here. I can run something else. I can run Specs. I can run Pixie Plate. I can run Life Orb. These are all items that are very, very good on Flutter Mane, right? Just because you have the sun option available to you. And then from here, you know, you can easily just slap on something like an Amoonguss, right? Where you have like redirection now, right? So again, it's all about like making this mode stronger, where now you can have like Amoonguss be a Trick Room abuser because you have Spore Pressure, right? And then you have redirection support to potentially lead with Cresselia, you know, set up that Trick Room. Technically, that is relatively passive because, you know, they can easily just like Terra Grass or repivot and reposition, and now you have 2 passive Pokemon in Trick Room on the field. So then you have to switch out one of them and get one of your big sweepers in. But sometimes you have to be careful because you might not be able to do it safely in that sense. But either way, still the Amoonguss does make sense on an archetype like this when you want to just have redirection, fake out, speed control here with the Trick Room. But what I decided to do for the viewers is actually just give them a little bit more of a stronger fast mode and a little bit more pressure and another way of using the Torkoal rather than just having a Trick Room Sweeper or like enabling the Flutter Mane. Now what we can do is instead of the Amoonguss is actually just do something like this with the Hisuian Lilligant, right? So now what ends up happening is now you have this mode where like you can just do after you eruption plays, right? And this is something that we've done on the channel before. It's nothing new. Of course, people have been doing this for a while now. It's just all about the archetype in which you want to play Lilligant Torkoal. So you can do after your eruption plays, of course. And then what you can also do is keep the opponent on their toes and do something like this, where you lead Lilligant Flutter Mane, right, with Torkoal in the back, right? So then what you could do is say, all right, which one, you know Torkoal's going to come in, but in which slot is it going to come in? Is it going to come into the Lilligant slot to boost the Flutter Mane's damage? Or is Flutter Mane going to switch out and have the Lilligant be super fast and outspeed something, or maybe put something to sleep, right? And then next turn it can just do like after you Heat Wave or Eruption plays, right? So it all depends. But either way, it gives the team a lot of, you know, flexibility, and it just gives it another quote unquote fast mode, you know, along with the Flutter Mane. So we decided to go with the Lilligant in this option, in this slot here, right? So you have a Trick Room mode, right? Cresselia Ursaluna, you know, Torkoal in the back, maybe even the Iron Hands or Flutter Mane. You have a fast mode here with Lilligant and Flutter Mane and Torkoal, and then have probably the Iron Hands in the back, I would say. But either way, you still have relatively good options into like a best of 3 tournament in that sense. It's also a pretty good ladder team as well. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to pretty much just round out these moves. You know, starting here with the Cresselia. That's actually a good name for it, Cresselia. But here we go. So of course we're going to have just at least one attack here, right? We're going to go with Moonblast, Lunar Blessing, and then I like Helping Hand here. Ally Switch is a good move here. Icy Wind, Ice Beam, these are all like very, very good moves. You know, especially for if you just consider something like Landorus, like how do you know, in terms of like beating the Landorus, you have like the Lilligant for grass damage, but that's like neutral. Then you have something like Iron Hands and an Ursaluna. These two get intimidated by Landorus in that sense, right? And then of course it puts pressure on the Iron Hands. Flutter Mane, again, you can outspeed it, but again, sometimes it just falls in that sense, right? So this is where like maybe something like, you know, Icy Wind could come in handy. But either way, you can even just opt for something like Ice Beam in this slot, right? Rather than like Helping Hand if you're worried about the Landorus matchup. But for now, we'll just keep the Helping Hand here. But again, feel free to make that change if you find yourself struggling against something like Landorus, right? Then from here, I just like Mental Herb here, you know, just in case of the Tornadus taunts. So that's my take on it. And of course, Terra Fairy here, just to have something against like these dark type attacks, or, you know, remove your ghost weakness to an opposing Flutter Mane. Makes a lot of sense here. The the Ursaluna Flame Orb here with the Guts, and then I like Earthquake here. Now, technically, this only really synergizes with Cresselia, but, you know, you can always protect with Torkoal and Flutter Mane, and then from there, just be all right. And then from here, of course, Facade. I like, okay, Facade here. Now, technically, all right, Protect is the last slot. You can go Swords Dance or Bulk Up in this slot. Again, this is something that was featured in the World Championships, right? And then the idea is like, okay, Landorus comes in, and then, you know, just intimidates you, and then this Ursaluna doesn't do any damage. But then you just click Swords Dance, anticipating that, and then now instead of -1, you have +1 Facades, just doing a whole bunch of damage. So you can always go for that if you think that is something that you're interested in. Bulk Up is another way of doing that as well. You neutralize the Intimidate, but now you also get a defense boost, which can help you in essence. Or you can do the Shadow Claw tactic, you know, just something that Facade cannot hit, and then just be able to snipe opposing Flutter Manes this way, right? In that sense, so you have that going for you. Either way, either one of these moves are fine and acceptable. I'm just going to leave Shadow Claw here for now, you know, just for the sake of the video. But Torkoal here, you can have, of course, Charcoal. Then you have Eruption, like we said, Heat Wave, Earth Power, great into Heatran matchup, and then Protect, right? So of course, after you've taken some damage, you can click Heat Wave, or if you're going against a Heatran, you click Earth Power. Now, after that, of course, you know, if Torkoal has taken damage, you can heal it back up with Lunar Blessing. So, you know, that's pretty good. Then you have like a stronger Eruption the following turn. This is just after you know, Solar Blade, Close Combat, your 2 stab moves, and then Sleep Powder, of course. Now, you can have Encore here, right? If you really think you need it, maybe take out one of these stab moves and put Encore here, but I'll leave that for you, the viewer, to be able to do that. Iron Hands here. So Assault Vest, of course, you know, with Fake Out Pressure, Wild Charge, Close Combat, Drain Punch, and then Heavy Slam. The Steel move to snipe Flutter Manes, and then this Flutter Mane. So, you know, again, I like this. So, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Protect. Now, for me, on this type of set, I like Life Orb here just because, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot more damage here. But at the same time, you can have Life Orb here and then opt to go for a Timid set, because now what you're doing, and it's kind of like the Pixie Plate idea, where like now you can get a speed boost but not sacrifice so much damage because you have a Life Orb. So you can definitely opt for that. What did I do? I clicked something and I went 252. So you can definitely do that. So this way you don't lose the mirror matchup. And feel free to use our other Timid Flutter Mane spreads in our previous videos if you think that's the way to go. But for the sake of this one, I was just going like a simple Modest set here, you know, with just 36 special attack. The first EV bump, optimize the Life Orb chip right here. Just have about 171 just to, or about 148. This will do it, right? Just to, you know, again, like if you want to go like Jolly here, you know, just to outspeed our Lilligant just by a little bit and outspeed the Lilligant speed creepers in that sense, and then just dump the rest here into defense like this. And this is good for calcing for the Chien-Pao Adamant sets, you know, Ice Spinner, Icicle Crash. That's also the benefit of going like physical Flutter Mane here. But again, if you're more comfortable with the Timid set, you know, you can just do something like this, where you keep the same bulk, but basically, you know, drop this to about 180. So here's the bump here, maybe like right here, 180, 189, right? And then this will outspeed modest Flutter Manes that are max speed, and then just put the rest here into something like this with defense and just get a little bit more bulk out of it if that's how you want to do your Timid set, and then still keep the Life Orb here for, you know, just doing a little bit more damage. And this way, like the advantage of this over Pixie Plate is, of course, your Shadow Ball still hit for a decent chunk of damage, right? Whereas your two fairy moves are still like doing, you know, just a tiny bit more, right? But all up to you how you want to play it. I'm just gonna go back here to the Modest set for now, because that's what we gave the viewer ultimately, right? So this was our Flutter Mane set, right? Now the crest here. So we went with a Calm Nature. Again, this is just to better take these Flutter Mane special attacks, along with like, you know, even the Chi-Yu stuff. You know, Dark Pulse is not great. Max HP. Now you can go bold, of course. That does help against like the double up from Chien-Pao Dragonite, or even like Urshifu shenanigans, Terra Water, Mystic Water, Surging Strikes, Adamant build, right? But we felt like Calm was still like a pretty good idea here. And then from here, you're just putting the rest into defense like this. And this is still pretty good against the double up from Dragonite and Chien-Pao. You still have a very strong roll against that, especially if it's only Ice Spinner Chien-Pao and not Icicle Crash. Then you're kind of just chilling. This Ursaluna set, so we went with Adamant. Now you can go Brave here, right? Just have like no speed, but just having just about this much. Again, just optimizing for the Flame Orb chip. Second EV bump here in the Adamant nature. Now again, if you don't know what EV bumps are and you're trying to play a competitive Pokemon, make sure you comment in the video description below asking what are EV bumps, because they are a fundamental concept to understand if you're trying to play this game. And it's something that's always in the game, you know, since like the old games, but you know, nothing is ever in the game to teach you about it. But basically the whole idea is this, is like when you start investing EVs into your stat bar like this, of course the EVs go up by 1 point, but there's 3 distinct points within this 252 bar that the stat actually increases by 2 points instead of 1, right? So let's just use the Ursaluna as an example. So I have nothing here in the attack. It's 176 attack stat. Now watch what happens as I move this bar. So right now it's slowly moving by 1 point, but then look what happens here. You see how it went from 185 to 187? It just jumped up by 2 points. This is what we call an EV bump, right? An EV benchmark, EV jump, whatever you want to call it. All right, we call it an EV bump here. But this is the first one, right? Then the rule is after 80 more EVs, you see the second bump and the third bump, right? And this only works in the natured stat. So because we're Adamant, you're only going to see the bump in the attack stat. You can't see this in defense. You cannot see this in special defense. only in the natured stat, which in this case is adamant nature, right? So every 80 EVs, somewhere around here, what's 76 plus 80? 156. So let's take a look at that. So again, once again, the bar is moving up by 1 point, but once you get here, boom, 196, 198. Where's the 197, right? Magic, Houdini. Okay, there it is. There's the second bump. And that's all we'll really leave out of it. From here, 108 defense. That'll help you against close combat Urshifu, as if they want to click that over Surging Strikes. But you get a little bit of bulk out of that. And sometimes, depending on the Rillabooms, if they're not, if they're only like 116 adamant, you can also have a pretty good roll against the Rillaboom Woodhammer in that sense. All right, but of course, you will always have Terra Ghost here to be able to dodge and remove your weakness, especially if it's like a fighting type attack, and then you get a stronger Shadow Claw in that essence, right? But over here, Torkoal, this one is relatively standard. This one is just going to be quiet nature, you know, just be super slow and hit super hard in Trick Room, right? Or hard hitting Eruption, hard hitting Heat Waves, you know, a little bit of HP, and then the rest just goes into special defense like this, right? That's pretty much it. Lilligant, same idea, 252 set. Now, what we decided to also do, all right, now if you go adamant here, just understand this. By going adamant, you know, if there is no Torkoal, you know, the Landorus could win, right? Because of the Jolly nature on the Landorus, if that is the case. But if you want a little bit more damage out of your Lilligant, then this is the way to go. Otherwise, the Jolly set, just to be able to outspeed things, can do the job. Like, I think outspeeding Urshifu is important, right? Especially with like Jolly nature. So you're more than welcome to just keep it like this. Then the Iron Hands. All right, we'll just go with like a standard Iron Hands set here. Just a little bit of HP optimization. Second EV bump here in the attack stat. You know, 1 point in defense. You're already super bulky as it is. Max special defense, and then a little bit of speed. So this way, again, we don't really speed tie our Ursaluna, right? In that sense. And we already did the fluttering, right? So that's pretty much it. You know, again, we just started something which, well, okay, let me just change this to Terra Grass here. Remove the Landorus weakness as well as the Amoonguss shenanigans. This can be Terra Fairy, right? For a little bit more fairy damage. Feel free to go Terra Water here, but I don't think it's necessary because you have a Torkoal in this thing. So this was it. You know, we started with this. And, you know, we got the viewer onto ladder and then, you know, just played some games. But again, this is just like a pretty decent starting point. I feel like this is a good 6. Again, you can go like the Amoonguss in this slot, and then you can go Ice Beam here. You can go Pixie Plate here with a Timid Nature, of course, like we showed you. Feel free to use any of those options. But at the very least, you have a starting point that now you can test on ladder. And then this is still like relatively solid and consistent, right? So what we're going to do is just show you a couple of games where we were using the squad, and then from there, get you guys out of here with this paste. All right, so this one is a Tornadus team. So this is where like Trickum could be really, really good. There is an Annihilate and a King Gambit here. I don't necessarily agree with those options. I think some better Pokemon could be used in those slots. But either way, I feel like Trickum is a safe lead here with Cresselia. Now, of course, he wants to probably lead the Rillaboom in something to be able to, you know, maybe fake out the Cress and deny it. Maybe even lead the Tornadus and taunt the Cress. And then at the same time, maybe even bring in the King Gambit in the back, assuming I can get Trickum up and then just click Sucker Punch or something that does well in Trickum in that sense. So maybe that's probably the role of King Gambit here. But I feel like we're still in a pretty good spot in terms of like what we want to do. So he does Rillaboom and Flutter Mane. That's a good lead, right? If he wants to like try and kill the Cresselia, of course. So what he could do is just simply not even just go for the fake out, just like literally Woodhammer and Shadow Ball this, right? He can definitely just do that. So what we're gonna do is actually try and punish that by potentially, or he can even just like fake out Cress and then just like Shadow Ball the Cresselia, but that's not going to kill, right? So either way, what I'm going to do is still click Eruption on this Torkoal no matter what. I'm not going to protect it, okay? You know, just trying to anticipate this read. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't pay off for me in this sense because he breaks out the Torkoal and actually attacks the Torkoal instead. I don't like that play, okay? Because what that means is I could have clicked Trick Room and literally just won the game from there. I would have clicked, you know, Heat Wave / Eruption, heal myself back up with Lunar Blessing, have a stronger Eruption next turn, right? So I did not like this play from my opponent, all right? But it is what it is. So now what we have to do is just reposition the Torkoal out of here. Let's go into Ursaluna. And then there's the that's what I thought he should have did the first turn, right? But now we get the Trick Room going, right? So now we could potentially snipe this Flutter Mane with Shadow Claw or click Facade against this Rillaboom. But I'm scared of the Annihilate switching in, so it's tough to do at this given moment. I don't know what's in the back, so I'm still just gonna try and snipe this Flutter Mane. If it switches out, then something's taking a Shadow Claw. Either way. But here we go, Terra Ghost here. I don't even know if I needed to Terra Ghost necessarily. Good protect by the Flutter Mane, by the way. There's the Wood Hammer. We do live, so that's good. And then Lunar Blessing gets our Ursaluna back to full health here, right? So now what we're going to do is, again, still make the same play. Click Shadow Claw into the Flutter Mane here. Snipe it. And now Torkoal can do something in Trick Room here. And there's the Wood Hammer. We do live, which is great. That did a lot more than the previous turn. And thankfully, Rillaboom's terrain is going to keep us alive here. This is why bulky Ursaluna is pretty good. There's the King Gambit. So here's the thing. King Gambit can only Sucker Punch one of these things. If he Sucker Punches the Ursaluna, Torkoal gets the Heat Wave off, and Rillaboom likely dies, and then King Gambit takes a whole bunch of damage. If he Sucker Punches the Torkoal, Torkoal might die, but then we'll snipe the Rillaboom, and then we'll just finish the game off with whatever we have in the back, right? So he Sucker Punches the Torkoal, but we live, right? So now we just get a free kill on the Rillaboom, and now we get a free kill on the King Gambit because we were able to live the Sucker Punch, right? So now it's just a 3-on-1, and whatever's in the back might even be Urshifu, but it was actually the Annihilate, right? So this is why, you know, I was a little bit iffy by clicking Facade into the Rillaboom. Maybe you might switch that out into the Annihilate. But again, the Ghost Shadow Claw has good value in this game. But I'm just going to reposition here. He's going to protect, of course, right? So I just want to call that and just try and set up Trick Room another turn. There's the Rage Fist, which is fine. He can only kill one. Either way, Torkoal was clicking an attack. But here we go. Helping Hand, Shadow Claw should be able to just clean up here. I don't even know if I needed the Helping Hand there, but either way, we were able to reposition and finish the game off, right? Okay, so this one is another kind of Tailwind team with Talonflame and Sylveon, where you still have Dragapult, Farigiraf, Urshifu, and Arcanine here. So 2 fire types. So they can do well into the sun a little bit. But again, I don't really see a Fake Out Bond. I mean, he could, of course, bring Farigiraf just to deny my Trick Room. So we'll just go fast mode, right? There's nothing really wrong with that. So, well, here's the lead I was talking about. Here's Lilligant and Flutter Mane. You know Torkoal is in the back, right? There's the Farigiraf and there's the Talonflame. So, now here's the thing. Like, he can deny my Trick Room and then, of course, have better speed control with the Talonflame. But these are 2 passive mons, and we have more aggressive options here, right? So what I ultimately decided to do was preserve the Flutter Mane, go into Torkoal here, go for the Sleep Powder into the Farigiraf, but he actually clicks Ally Switch there. That's very interesting. All right, but we put the Farigiraf to sleep. So now Talonflame doesn't have Gale Wings, and now this is just a simple after you Terra Fire Eruption. So this is why I like this combination, of course, as opposed to having Amoonguss. There's Urshifu and here's Sylveon. So he brought the 2 things that were able to resist fire. All right, so he cleans up there with Quick Attack, but this is still fine. Now, Heat Wave may have been the better play here, but I just wanted guaranteed damage with Eruption. It still does so much. We actually get a crit there. But because, like, Flutter Mane's coming in, right, to deal the job, to finish the job here, right? So I just wanted to, like, put the Sylveon in range and not miss. So here's Dazzling Gleam, right? Sylveon does take it relatively well. Hyper Voice almost picks up the Torkoal here, and then we just pick up with Earth Power on the Sylveon slot. And then he goes for Aqua Jet. Again, this is the benefit of Sun. Having reduced damage against the Ursh is always good. And then from there, we just finish the game right off the top of that. All right, so there it is. That's pretty much it. So again, you can kind of see how the team pilots is very, very easy to use. You know, again, it's all about setting up your Trick Room and then getting your Ursaluna and or Torkoal in position to do the job that they need to do, right? Then again, you have the flexible fast mode with Lilligant, Torkoal, and Flutter Mane. Likely Iron Hands in the back to be able to support that idea. But all in all, you know, you can always do like the Flutter Mane Lilligant lead with Torkoal in the back, like I like to do sometimes, right? But of course, sometimes even like Cresselia Torkoal leads are pretty good. You know, maybe properly call the double up and then just click Helping Hand Eruption and punish it. That's always a play that you can always take advantage of. And then, like I showed you with the Shadow Claw or something, it does have its use. Swords Dance is probably the better move there, right? Maybe even like bulk up as a secondary and then Shadow Claw comes in third, but I just like Shadow Claw and being able to snipe opposing Flutter Manes in that sense, right? But like I said, if you're having issues with like the Landorus, you can definitely put an Ice move here on the Cresselia, or even put like Icy Wind on the Flutter Mane in that sense. But you know, you have ways to deal with Landorus, right? Because you know, you have a couple special attackers, you have a Grass type, and you have Flutter Mane here. The Assault Vest can get a little tricky, but if you can get the Ursaluna in the right spot to just click Facade when it's not intimidated, excuse me, then you can just finish the job there. All right, but if this is something you're interested in, if you're having some issues with team building, if you need a little bit of help, if you're trying to go to a regional, if you need some help for an upcoming local, you know, feel free to sub to the channel with the tier 3 sub. That's a team building sub. With that, we create the team from scratch like this and show you how to do all the EV spreads with the damage calcs involved. And then from there, you know, we get you that team that you need to be able to do well, you know, in a given format, right? So tier 3 sub, again, like I said, it's in the video description with that link, or in the comment section, there is a pinned comment to join the channel, as well as every single video has a join now button that you can click for the same thing. Again, you know, just being able to find the correct tier option that is best for you. All right, so we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.